South Africa go 2-1 up in the 5-match T20 series against the West Indies with a 1-run win against the West Indies in the third T20. Now, I don't know how to feel about this. Let me just start with that. I don't think a lot of people thought that we'd be taking a lead so early, first and foremost. I thought that we would probably be able, if we were going to win 3-2, like many people presumed that we would, many thought that it would be coming from behind. So 2-0 up, West Indies and South Africa coming in from behind. I thought that it would go 1-1 because of the West Indies being a team that goes up and down. That's my description of them. A team that performs really well in one game and then you don't know what you're going to get in the next. And because it was back-to-back games, fitness levels, all of those type of things, I think South Africa is the fitter team out of the two. So I thought that South Africa could maybe nick a win, and they did that in the first game. They did it again in the second game, largely because of their bowling lineup and the way the bowlers performed, particularly the way I would say Andrich Nokia Shamsi, they bowled in this particular match. Previous match, George Linden and Shamsi. And Kagiso obviously finishing it off is very important because we haven't had a bowler that can do that at the depth for a very long time that we can rely on consistently. And I'm so happy to see that KG can do that. But South Africa still have a problem with their batting lineup, and we can still see there's gaps in the side. Like I said in the previous game, there are gaps in the side that we need to fill, particularly in that second half of the game. I'm going to reveal the stats of the last 5 overs for you guys as well, so that you guys can see how we performed in the last 5 overs in the last 2 matches. Even though we won the games, there are certain improvements that we need to make so that we can be a lot better going forward. But we're going to speak about all of this today. I'm bringing on Mpo and I'm bringing on Nditya to have a proper discussion, because I believe that we will be able to have a balanced discussion with these two guys. Obviously, it's going to be a very unbiased discussion, I'm hoping. And I'm going to try to be like the middle ground between the two and try to sort things out. If you're new to this channel, please remember to subscribe and click that notification bell for all future videos. So let's get into the review of this third T20 against the West Indies. Let's get it. Hey guys, welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your review show. I'm your host, Khalid. This is the show where we talk about everything that has to do with South Africa versus the West Indies. So first and foremost, you've heard what I've said in my preview. I think let's give you guys the floor. Let's start speaking about it. Aditya, I'm going to start with you. Give me your insight into the game, what you thought about this particular game, how we should be looking at it.
Oh, well, this is exactly the sort of challenge that South Africa needed, because we were talking about preparation for the World Cup, and this series was perceived to be one of those challenges where South Africa is playing a top team, and they needed to come up they needed to win. So you win a game by 1 run when you haven't exactly played the perfect game, but you found a way to win. I think that's a massive positive for South Africa. What I'm also starting to perhaps observe as a pattern in this series is that it seems like the tracks that they've been playing on, they have been 160, 170 pitches. And the first game was an exception because as Shamsi indicated in his press conference, the rain probably made it easier for the West Indian batters to bat on. And historically, if we look at the West Indies record, they are better on batting-friendly pitches because they don't run a lot between the wickets. They struggle to hit the boundaries and sixes as their release shots on difficult pitches. So I'm starting to see that vulnerability sort of come to the fore for the West Indies. But in saying that, I still maintain that middle order batting remains a concern for South Africa. And if the ball gets softer and it's harder for the batsman to hit through those middle overs and towards the end, then perhaps the top three need to take more responsibility. Quinton did that yesterday, today, depending on your time zone. But but there needs to be, I'm sure there'll be more of an effort in that department going forward. But all in all, exactly the sort of challenge that South Africa need, and I'm sure they'll take a lot of confidence out of it tomorrow and day after.
Your floor,
Okay.
Mpo.
Oh, okay. I'm not happy with that. I'm happy with the win and the way in which you won, as Adichie said, and I agree with him. For me, that was all about how to handle pressure as a fielding side and how to handle tight games. But when you put 167 on the board, there are not many games you're going to win in this format, regardless of whether the pitch is a par 160, 170 pitch. South Africa have only defended a score below 170 4 times now, and 2 of them have been in this series since the last World Cup. That tells you that your benchmark should always be higher than 170, regardless of whatever track gives you. Yes, sometimes you get some rank, very bad tracks, but in the course of the 20 overs, the first 10 overs are brilliant. They're great. They're amazing. And then the back end looks really bad. And that comes down to me to tell me that it's the roles at which the batsmen are batting and what the role is. Yesterday, bringing Aiden up to 4 baffled me because then it affected as to what Rassie could do. Because then if Aiden's batting at 4, what are we expecting from Rassie when we all know and have seen that Rassie can't come in from over 10 onwards? Yes, he may can, but in those last dying overs, he's not the type of clean power hitter that you need. So are you trying to convert Rassie into a power hitter now? Or and then also the other game you brought David Miller in at 4, which I agreed with because you want your best, the man with the highest strike rate in the team to face the most amount of balls, because if he faces 30 balls, it's a 70, just like how Quinton did yesterday. So for me, I was left confused even further going into this thing with the batting. From a bowling perspective, they were perfect. They were unbelievable yesterday. The only blemish is Aiden Markram's second over, because that first over was really good. It was 9. And that's the value of having a 6th bowler. But then the question that goes to Temba is, why are we holding Lungi back for the death overs when he takes the majority of his wickets when he started international T20 cricket in the power play? I'd rather you give Lungi 3 overs of the power play, and then the other 3 you can experiment with whatever Tom, Dick, or Harry you want. And so those are the only things that I'd critique. But from that back end, the way they bowled, Lungi bowled well yesterday in the death. I was really impressed. There was one over I was hoping he could at least give us 10, because Lungi in the last, in I think it's now 6 of the last 10 or 7 of the last 10. His economy rate has always been above 10. So I was like, okay, if you can give us what your average has been over the last 10 matches, the other 2, that leaves 19 for the other 2, and the other 2 can figure out what they need to do. And somehow Anas gave us a beautiful over of 4. So that was great. From a batting perspective, role clarification is really important. You could see that in this test series, in this T20 series. We keep on doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. And we've done this for 5 years. I went back to the last time we played the West Indies in a T20. That was in Nagpur. Yes, it was 120 play 120. But even in that game, we went with a 6-5 split. And in that 6-5 split, we lost the game. And we only lost the game by like three wickets, with 3 balls to spare. And we can't be playing this brand of cricket for 5 years expecting the same result, but actually it's a little bit more, and nothing's changing. And so it feels to me like South Africa's plan is always to have wickets in hand in the backhand, but we don't have the batsmen to be able to take advantage of those wickets in hand. And so maybe the plan does need to change, and maybe we want to talk about it later on. But for me, I'm tired of watching this over and over again, because all it means is that when we get to the World Cup, our ceiling is 170. You can't do that going into the World Cup. And yes, maybe some guys are going to come in, but the way this team is set up, we don't have guys striking at 150, coming in at 5, 6, and 7, like the West. Well, I don't want to even use the West Indies because their strike rates baffle me too. But we don't have those guys who have the ability to score boundaries later on. And that, for me, is the biggest worry, because you can't win a World Cup. Bro, you can't be competitive in T20 cricket if you don't bat that low. You can see that the top six are batting as though they need to stay in as long enough. And the moment they get to that over that they deem is enough for them, then that's when they start exploding. And for South Africa, that over is very late. It's over 15. Whereas other teams, when you have 3 wickets in hand, you start exploding from 13. Yesterday, we could have exploded from 13. We didn't. We waited until 15, and that's what got us into this hole, because then we started losing 5 for 17, and that's the game.
Yeah, so role identification, very important. That's the main point that I'm taking out of your particular review, Mpo, because so my point is, right now, I don't think there's enough time for South Africa to now go and find a big hitting finisher. So it looks like to me that David Miller is supposed to be that guy, right? So I think South Africa, if they play to their strengths, how it looks to me is they're hoping that Quinton de Kock fires in the power play. And they're looking for a partner that can mimic him or fit his style of play, or how can I say, he can coincide with him at the top of the order, basically, and can help him and support him at the top of the order. Someone that can either match him with regards to smacking the ball through the gaps, etc., finding the boundaries, or someone that can be able to rotate the strike quickly with him so that he can be on strike majority of the balls in the power play. So they're trying to find that sort of balance at the top of the order. Now, whether it's Janneman, whether it's Riza, or whether it's Aiden, is still to be discussed. Then I think what they are trying to do with the rest of the batsmen are having the availability of guys that can put out fires if there are major collapses. So can either just bring some calmness to the innings, so that the next person in line that is there, that he is in, can kick on later on. So someone like Rassie, I feel when he comes into the middle, he needs some time to settle in. Then they need someone. The ideal situation is that we lose our second opener, not our first opener, if Quinton de Kock is seen as our best batsman, because ultimately you want Quinton de Kock to be batting right through the innings. That's obviously the dream situation, which you can't necessarily rely on 100%. So if we lose Quinton early, you need to bring someone in that can do Quinton's job, and I think that person is Aiden. I think Aiden can do that job if he just kicks on when he's settled and not losing his wicket so early when he's settled. That's something that he needs to work out of his game mentally. It's something that he needs to find a way to get over that hurdle. There are so many batsmen that speak about it. Their conversion rates, when they settled, they lose their wicket or they lose concentration. When they get to 49, 40 in the 40s, they need to convert to 50. When they're in 50s, they need to convert to hundreds. There's a lot of those type of things that you need to do mentally to get over those hurdles. Now, currently, for Markram, majority of the time, it's in limited overs cricket, it's the 30s. It's like nervous 30s for him. He gets close to 30, or he looks good up until 30 runs, and then suddenly he loses his wicket playing a stupid shot or playing a loose shot or something like that. So he needs to get over that hurdle. Then I think it's if you lose the other guy, so say now you lose Riza, or you say now you lose Janneman, or you say now you lose whoever's going to open with Quinton, you need someone that can obviously rotate the strike quickly, that can settle in so that they can fire at the end if Quinton loses his wicket. Rassie van der Dussen is the perfect man for that role again. So he can come in when there's a wicket that was lost early, or Temba Bavuma, similar. Temba Bavuma, someone that can just calm the game down and say, look, you guys, let me just rotate the strike with you. I can take my time to get in because Quinton is firing at the other end. So that is the balance that they need to find, because if we're not going to find someone, if David Miller's not the guy to come in the last 5 and smash a quick 30, 40, 50 runs, then who's going to be that guy? Who's going to be the guy that's going to do that? If we can't find him, we need to select a solid top 6 that are versatile, that can adapt their game according to the match situation. That's unfortunately what South Africa is going to have to do going in. And who those 6 guys are going to be very, very important. Because yes, you're right. I'm going to show you some stats of David Miller. So David Miller so far in his T20 career, here are his stats on the screen. So I filtered it from 2018 just to give you guys since the last century that he scored, that massive century that he scored against Australia, right? So 27 in 27 matches, he scored at an average of 26. Now he scored 250s in that time at a strike rate of 134. Now he's been up and down in different batting positions, and I think that's unfair to David because you're not really giving him a role in the team. You're not telling him this is what we want you to do. That's your position. Stick to it. So you can see he's batted 4, he's batted 2, he's batted 6, batted 5, 4, 5. They're moving him up and around according to match situation. Now I think he's versatile enough to do that. I do believe that he can be that guy. That if we 10 overs in and the strike rate's not looking that good and the run rate's not that good, bring in David Miller to do that. But it seems to me that towards the end of David Miller's career, towards now as he's getting older, he needs a couple of balls to get in. So in the different positions, David Miller, a majority of his games he's been playing at 5. So he averages 26 batting at 5, right? Then you can see how he's done in batting at the bottom of the year. You can see where he's done batting at 6, and at the top you can see what he's batting at 4. So he hasn't really batted a bulk of his matches there. Obviously, it's been at 5. So finding the right role for Miller, especially when South Africa's batting like this, in the last 5 overs, in the second T20 and in the third T20, this is the score. So they have struggled to find someone that can stick in and massively smash. Now, you can argue, but look at the West Indies. It's a good argument to have. We all came into this series, okay, apart from you, Paul, because you strongly believe that South Africa could do this. But if you look at the West Indies, we consider them to have a settled team. Maybe 1 or 2 positions they are trying to fit in and look for, but we consider them to have a world-class settled team. Yet they haven't been able to perform and get wins like we thought they would in this last 2 games. Yes, they can still come right because West Indies, you never know. They are the most unpredictable team in the world besides Pakistan. So you never ever know what they're going to bring to the table and how they're going to perform. But the argument there is they have a settled team, they battle 8. South Africa don't know who that is. We don't know if we can rely on Peglekwayo, if they are going to or not as an all-rounder. Dwayne Pretorius, yes, amazing batsman, but is he a power hitter? Does he need time to settle in at the crease? Those are questions we need to ask. Now, I've seen Dwayne Pretorius come in and smash, and I thought this is the guy that we're looking for. Now, we haven't had an opportunity to see him in a long time now. He's always had something, with an injury, COVID-19. He's always had something, and I'm so sad about that because I think this would have been the perfect scenario for him. Because I think that he would be able to play in these conditions and show that we can have that guy that can hit the ball far. I don't think his replacements can do that. So I don't think Vian Mulder is the type of guy that can. So my problem is we don't have like-for-like replacements. For example, if you take out Andre Russell, and let's say now you don't pick Pollard. You take out Andre Russell, you can bring in Pollard, Dwayne Bravo, okay, Jason Holder. They all can hit the ball really, really hard and far if they need to. West Indies have replacements for their players. If someone's missing, they can just bring in someone else and replace him, whereas we don't have like-for-like replacements. If we're losing a number 7 that can power hit, who's our next in line?
And that's where the issue lies. And I think in my podcast earlier this week, well, yesterday, the question was out of the box thinking. And one of the names that came up was David Visa. 36 years, I understand. But he's probably the closest guy you can get to Dwayne Pretorius as a power hitter. But that's towards the point. Let's go to your points, Khalid. I no longer want to sit with a set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think you pick your 8 batsmen. And your 8 batsmen have a role and have a time frame in the innings. Yes, 7 and 8 will come in the last 5, and their job is to seek boundaries as much as possible, right? But for like a Quinton, right? I think South Africa wants Quinton to at least bat 10 overs, because in those 10 overs he gets 30 balls. He scored 72 yesterday. That's the type of stuff I want from him: 60, 70, and 30 balls. I would tell Quinton that power play, dominate. After the power play, you may take an over to rest, but I need you to try and accelerate the run rate if things are going well. So if you're not losing wickets on the other end, I need you to take over the mantle as a senior batsman and accelerate. His partner, in my eyes, should be given the license in the power play to go hammer and tongs for those 6 overs. I don't mind losing his wicket, but I need him for those 6 overs to try and dominate as much as possible, strike as high as possible, which is why I would have thought giving someone like an Aiden, who's proven to us, or even a Yanaman, who've proven to us to strike at the high 150s, 170s in that role, that could help you. And you tell them, because they're young in the team, you don't have to give them much responsibility. Just focus on looking for boundaries, opening up the gaps while the field is still wide open. You're then the next person is Temba. What's Temba's role? Temba's role is, if there's a wicket that's fallen in the power play, try and assist whoever's on the other end to be able to continue to score at that rate, while your window is probably from Temba's window is from over 3, or wherever we lose the wicket, up until over 10. From over 10, if Temba's still there, I'd like Temba to seek boundaries. Seek them to try and put pressure on the opposition, because I've got guys who can bat from 10 to 20 who can accelerate the run rate and strike at a higher strike rate. And to a certain extent with David Miller's window is from over 7 up until over 20. If he bats in that period, he gets about 30, 40 balls. That should get me 80 to 100 runs if David Miller's on fire. If David Miller faces 50 balls, I expect David to get me 100 if he's in. Do you get where I'm going with this? Rassie van der Dissen's role, which makes it a little bit more complicated. Rassie's window, I think, is from over 5 late in the power play up until probably over 15. But I'd like for him from over 12 to start accelerating his run rate and striking at a higher run rate to set the team up to go. Because if Rassie's in and over 12, I'm in a good position. If I haven't lost 5, 6 wickets. And so those are the type of things that you need to manage every game for everybody going along. And your number 6 batsman, his window is over 12 up until over 20. That gives him a window of about 20, 25 balls to be able to get us a 50. And so we need to find players who can fit those roles, who can strike at those type of strike rates, and you give them those roles. And if that happens, and we can see, so for instance, at over 7, if a wicket falls, Temba doesn't come in. David Miller comes in. Why? Because David's window has been activated.
Adaptable players in the top 6. That's what I want to see.
Yes, but the problem is, do we have those players who can fit from 5, 6, and 7? Because that's where my issue lies. Yesterday, with bringing Aiden up, I was like, but then are we going to bat Rassie in this game? Because that was Rassie's window.
You see, I thought in that game, when Riza lost his wicket, right? I would have brought Aiden in straight away to keep the pressure on the West Indies, because we were batting okay in the power play. So I wanted to continue to keep that pressure, because Aiden's the type of guy, he's not going to play the Bavuma role where he's going to sit and wait for 10 balls, 20 balls just to get his eye in. He wants to hit the ground running, put pressure on the opposition immediately, and he has the ability. So that I thought bring him in then, because he's almost like your second opener if you lose an opener early, if you understand what I mean. Then if for when the field is up, it's easy to play a guy like Aiden and Quinton. They will clear the boundaries, because they're going to hit the ball over the fielders and get those boundaries. We need to accelerate the run rate. But if the power play is over, Temba's the type of guy that will be able to absorb that and protect the player that's in. So we need to protect Quinton de Kock, for example, so that he can be in his best overs. Protect Rassie van der Dussen so that he can be at his best in the last 5 or the last 6, 7 overs. We need to make sure that we have players that can absorb that pressure, and Temba is definitely a player that can absorb that pressure. Now we just need to find that, we still need to find an explosive batsman with Rassie up front. So let's talk about the next game over here. What would you like to see? Me personally, I think that Riza got 3 games. He showed what he's capable of. I would like to see what Yanaman has to offer. I would really like to see Yanaman and Quinton as an opening partnership on these wickets against the West Indies. Because if Yanaman can do it on these wickets against these West Indian bowlers who are not making it easy for South Africa to score runs, he can do it against anybody, I feel. And And I think that he needs to work. Obviously, he has a problem against spin, whatever the case may be. But we have enough players in the team that can play against spin. So I don't think that's a risk I'm willing to take, as long as we can score a quick runs in the power play, because I think that sets South Africa up perfectly. We are most successful when we perform well in the power play. So, and protect those players that can hit at the back end. David Miller is another person we need to speak about, his role in the side. And I think that in T20 cricket, like I told Aditya before, and I want Aditya to comment on this as well, and your views on what me and Paul said, but I believe that South Africa, the best option for them going into the World Cup is to find 6 adaptable batsmen. They have a 7 that can hit the ball. So George Linder can be that guy. He hasn't shown it in this series, but he does have the ability to. I've seen him do it many occasions. Have a 7 like Dwayne Pretorius, which they probably will bring back in. I don't know if they're going to talk to Chris Morris. That's another story for another day. But Dwayne Pretorius is that number 7. And 8, you can then decide. Like, you can go with either a George Linder and have a second spinner, then KG and Andrich, and then Shamsi, but then you're dropping Lungi. So you need to decide what you're going to do with regards to that. Aiden, I think, is key, because he's the closest thing to JP Dumini that we have, to be able to give the ability to put the ball and to be able to bat anywhere in T20 cricket.
Vian Libber, we left him in South Africa.
And I think Vian Libber as well.
Aiden Markram, and more explosive in the lower order. Not saying Aiden isn't. I would actually wanted to see Aiden come in at 6 to see maybe if he can be explosive.
If he can do that, yes.
That's what I thought was going to happen yesterday. But if you're going to go there, go get Vian Libber. Or go get Jacques Snyman and tell him to bat at 6. The kid can hit a ball.
I'm hoping that the perfect scenario happens. I'm hoping that the perfect scenario happens tomorrow, Umpo. I hope that our opening partnership can put on a decent run. So they can put on decent runs, that they can go and perform well. And that in the last 5, that we maybe lose a wicket. Like, okay, the perfect scenario for me would be we are, let's say, 120 or 130 by the 15th over. We lose a wicket. Aiden Markram comes in and he goes. And we see how he does that role. That would be the perfect scenario for me, to see if he can take us to that, score a quick 40 odd, and with the other person at the other end, obviously adding runs to it as well. But score a quick 50 odd, take us to 180. I want to see if we are capable of doing something like that. If we can score that like we do in the power play at the beginning, we can do that in the last 5. Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We could have had him on the show, actually. I'm not joining, but suffice to say, I feel very emotional. Proteus are dealing with us in a very unkind manner. Interesting points from his point of view. Aditya, give me your thoughts on what we've said, because we've said a lot. And then I want you to go straight into what you would like to see in the next game.
Before the series, we identified 5, 6, and 7 to be the problem areas for South Africa. You know, if there was a time that South Africa could lose a game while batting, that's when it would be. And in the first game, we saw that Klaasen and Miller scored 16 of 23. And quite predictably, West Indies blew South Africa away. This is probably a wild thought. But given that South Africa has more of a supply of top 3 batsmen, Malan, Faf, Aiden Markram, Quinton de Kock, just a wild idea. Why don't South Africa try moving Quinton de Kock to 6 or 5? Because he's a guy who can smack the ball right from the beginning. Power play or not, it doesn't matter. He's got a license to kill. Whereas Malan, Aiden Markram, Faf, very good in the power play. They can take advantage. But if Dwayne Pretorius doesn't make it in time, if he has long COVID, we don't know what his condition is right now, and we don't know what's going on with Chris Morris either. I like Mbo's idea of David Wiese coming in, that he's been in spectacular form in the PSL. But we don't have any guarantees with respect to whether he'll come in or not. So if your problem position is number 6, might as well put the most experienced player in the team, the most capable hitter in the team, at 5 or 6. Who knows?
Boy, don't answer this. Please don't answer this because this is going to be the podcast show.
I knew you were going to say that.
This is
I
an
knew you were gonna
excellent
say that.
episode for the podcast show on Sunday evening. So, guys, please tune in. We're going to discuss whether Quinton de Kock can move to 6 as an option. We're going to discuss it in depth. And Paul, please come and be available for that. Are we playing on Sunday? Are we playing on Sunday? We're not playing on Sunday.
Saturday's the final game.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And I think, please, Marshall, if you're watching this, we're going to do a preview of the game and we're going to talk about this in our podcast show. Please join the stream. I would like to hear what you have to say. He has an interesting point here, and I'm going to let you answer this, Paul. Do you think, out of interest, that we've lost the game, them, West Indies, or rather than SA won them? Genuine question.
South Africa snatched victory from the jaws of defeat for 2 games in a row. It means that they won it, but they won games they weren't supposed to win. So I'm on the fence on this one, but we have no right winning games setting targets under 170. And that's a fact. But because our bowlers are... But here's the fun part. Having that extra bowler in that trio is the reason why I think Boucher's strategy going to this World Cup is I can defend whatever score my guys put up if
that's also very interesting.
If it's above 150. It's a very dangerous
very risky
to put these guys in because Evan Lewis went hammer and tongs in game 1. And so maybe I'm trying to be a little bit conservative by trying to break up Lungi, Anna, and KG and bringing in a bowling all-rounder so we can have a little bit more I just like 20 more runs, guys. 190 is something that we should be aiming for all the time. But yeah, so for me, that's it's a risk. Maybe that's the aggression that he wants to show, that he's going to be very aggressive with his bowlers and he's going to try to defend God knows whatever score he can defend.
And then what if we're chasing? Then you have an extra bowler.
Oh no, you're gonna have to put them in a hole.
You know what I mean?
So you need to. So when you're chasing, you need to then impose yourself on them like you did in the Test series. And essentially, I'm sure Michelle's getting flashbacks, I think, of the Test series because, quite frankly, Anrich Nokia is just playing games with these guys, and it's not even funny anymore. And KG's stepping up, and then somehow Kesh left, and we gave them Shamsi, and Shamsi's doing what he's doing best. So
whatever they do, they must not drop Anrich Nokia. The man has control that is unflippin' believable. He's improved his gameplay tenfold. Like the way is that consistency that we saw. The only difference is the pace. He's not hitting at 150s like you will hit in India, but that's also because of conditions and other things involved as well. But that Yorkers at 149, 148, 150s. Guys, in the UAE, I think that South Africa really have a shot because it's got to be more. I feel. No. I'm not saying to win. I'm not saying.
Batting like this, there's no shot.
But I think that the pitches are going to be a lot more batter friendly than it is going to be bowler friendly in the UAE. I think that South Africa have a bigger chance on a batting friendly wicket. Aditya?
It's an unknown. I think they're all going into an uncertainty because we're talking about the IPL being played there, the second half of the IPL, and we don't know what the nature of the pitches will be because they're all going to be pretty tired pitches. So I do think spin bowlers will have some purchase from these wickets, but you never know. Like KG and Andrik were the best bowlers in the IPL 2020, so you never know. But in saying that, and we talk about Yorkers at 149, 150 in the UAE, Andrik set a record of 156.2.
Yep,
Josh Butler.
Yes, so, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm excited about the bowling. Our bowling's going to win us those games, eh? Those group games are difficult. I mean, they're going to play. So let me retract what I said.
We've seen this before. We've seen this before with England.
Let me retract what I said. I don't want to be overly confident.
I'm not confident. I think we were on a hiding to nothing on the way there because T20, yes, bowling is really important, but the other side of the game is even more important. Batting is too important to this game. And right now, if we can't get that right and get the balance right, we might. there's like Nokia and the guys can do so much, because we saw it in the England series, right? In for actually 2 years in a row, England can chase down 200 many times over. We couldn't defend 200 even with these guys. We had KG, we had Anna, we had Lungi at St. We couldn't defend. Even when they came down to Cape Town. We couldn't do much with these guys. So we just need to be very careful about what we're seeing here. I think the West Indian batting has left a lot to be desired in the way in which it's coming out. I was surprised that Shimron Hetmeyer's strike rate in T20 internationals is 117. Jason Holder's under 120. There are a few guys in that batting lineup that's under 120. Yes, on their day they look great, but some of the times it's like one game is great, most of the games it isn't. And so we just need to be able to put this all in context as to possibly this series is going to be won by our bowlers. And so for tomorrow, all I want to see is, if we're going to persist with the six batsman thing, I want to see Aiden coming from over 10. So hold Aiden until the back end. He can strike at 170 and try and do what Aditya kind of said, where maybe let's try have
But
a
then
guy
what's
like
David's role?
Aiden. David comes in from over 7. If you lose a wicket between over 6 and 10, David Miller walks in, you give him 12 overs, and you tell David, I'm giving you 40 balls, you need to score me runs. If you don't want to score me runs, that's it. But I think for me,
It's
David's
not the
role
pressure.
is at number 4. No, but we're giving him time to settle in. We're not asking him to give us Miller time. We're saying, give us a longer version of Miller time that makes us even more successful. Because that's what David Miller is.
To answer Mash's question, though, we're also talking about a West Indian batting lineup that we said is a bit one-dimensional. In a statistical comparison of all teams, they take the least number of
Freeing the
singles.
arms.
So they're
If you
release
stop them
shots
from freeing
are-
their arms,
they're going to be limited. And the last 2 games, it was exactly that. You had Andre Fletcher, who I think he made 19 of 12 or something like that in the first game. And in the second game, he made 35 of 36. Now, he's an opening batter. The ball was hard at the time, and he was batting at a time when he was most likely to clear the boundary. He didn't. And we know that Gale he's not a great runner between the wickets, as are the rest of the West Indian players. And so in tough conditions, they're not going to be able to clear the boundaries very easily. And I'm starting to think that these are not the sorts of wickets where 190 is, I don't want to say not achievable, but it's difficult. And perhaps 175 may be a winning total. That's, I think we've sort of expected 180, 190 to be easily achieved in most conditions across the world, but I don't know if that is the case in the West Indies right now. And we should make peace with that. If 5, 6, and 7 are finding it as difficult to bat, then perhaps it's because conditions are not allowing them to really clear it out of the boundary really easily.
Yeah, but also South Africa I've been watching the way they're bowling specifically. They've been stopping the West Indies from freeing up their arms and opening up their arms and smacking, because they hit very well when they open up their arms and they hit the ball. So we've been bowling, like, for example, you saw at the end, Rabada between the legs. We're flirting with that wide line on the leg side. We're flirting with that line consistently.
That's fine.
Which is great, exactly. And it stops the West Indies from freeing up their arms. But
yes, but
that's why I'm saying. That's why I'm very impressed with the way the bowlers have improved from game.
No, they have come to the party. They have stepped
100%
so well. Like Tabray Shamsi, man.
The only thing I'm impressed with the batsmen, I think their running between the wickets have been pretty good. I think that they turning to that is very important. Me and Aditya spoken about this, because in difficult conditions, when you can't clear the boundary easily, you need to make sure that you can get those twos, those ones, those twos, those quick ones and twos, so that you can accumulate runs throughout the innings. Especially South Africa, they need to make sure that they do that on a regular basis, and they're the guys that can adapt. That's why I'm saying with the West Indies currently they can't adapt to that, because a guy like Chris Gayle doesn't run well between the wickets. Andre Russell not necessarily either. Pollard not necessarily either. So they can't adapt to those type of conditions by running between the wickets. Whereas South Africa do have that. Rassie is a very good runner between the wickets. Pavuma is. Aiden is relatively good. David Miller is good running between the wickets. He's quick. So they have an adaptable, and they need to make sure that they have adaptable players, and they pick according to what the conditions are. Please, Boucher, pick a side, go look, go learn what you need to learn about the UAE, go find out what the conditions are going to be like as close as possible that you can. Watch the IPL in depth, please, and make sure that you're watching it so you can see how those wickets are practiced, how players are performing well on there, and pick a team, an 11 that can play in those conditions, please. That's all I'm asking. Let's just wrap this up quickly. Mpo, your prediction for the next match, who would you like to see come in? And then Aditya can say so as well.
Obviously, I want South Africa to win, but what I want to see is I don't want to see us get to 110 in 13 overs and end up at 160. We need to aim to score 10 runs and over from over 13, which means all we want is one boundary per over, minimum one boundary per over. Yes, I love the rotation of the strike. It's beautiful. It's nice. Yes, don't settle for singles. Go look for boundaries in those. Even if you lose your wickets, that's fine. I'd rather you be bowled out for 150 trying to go get a big total than sit there with 4 wickets in the hut at 167 and say, no, it was difficult conditions. Try to be more risky. And I think for me, that's the thing. Bacha promised me aggressive cricket. The only aggression that I'm getting is from the bowlers. Those guys are insane. Those guys are amazing. The batsmen need to find ways to score even in difficult wickets, because that's how you become a world champion. You're not going to become a world champion settling for 1s and 2s, trying to get 6 and 7 runs and over in the thing. And that's the one thing I like about the West Indies. Even though they don't have an anchor, they've only got one gear, and that's gear 5, and they go about it. And if they get bowled out, they get bowled out. That's fine, but they'll go trying. And even yesterday with South Africa bowling so well, they got within 1 run. That should tell you where the South African team is.
If they didn't get that 6, though, it wouldn't be by 1 run, I think at that point, KG was just like, oh, well, just take the ball. As long as I don't bowl it, no ball or wide, I'm okay. Aditya?
For South Africa's sake, I hope it's a series finale in the 5th game, because of the situation is one that they've had trouble dealing with, and
Are you just having... Is he having some... I don't know if it's me or him at the moment. Is it him? Okay, he's having some technical difficulties. Okay, cool. So, guys, Aditya's just having some technical difficulties quickly. He'll try to come back. I'll speak so long. So, for me personally, I just want to see one change. Okay, there we go. Aditya's back. Yeah, bro.
Okay, for South Africa's sake, I hope the 5th game is a series decider, because of the many challenges that South Africa may face. Whether you play the perfect game or not is not always in your control, but if they can get the confidence to overcome a pressure situation like they did in the last game, then I think that will go a long way in helping South Africa, compete in the World Cup at least. Again, we can't guarantee performance, but I do hope that mentally South Africa make it through that 5th game and come out victorious. In saying that, again, I think it's going to be huge. It's a question for the batters. How hard did they go in the power plays? Are they able to clear the boundaries in the middle overs? And we need to see what the makeup of 5, 6, and 7 will be. But yeah, again, as Poa said earlier in the show, out of the box thinking is important, and let's see what Boucher does.
Mm-hmm. So for me, I just want to see one change. I want to see Janaman Malan come in, and I want to see how we play with that type of versatility, and see how we play our players then. Let's analyze it again after the game, and we'll have a chat about it again. But guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please don't forget to subscribe to the Cricket Fanatics magazine. It's a free subscription. We have amazingly themed content every single month. So the link is on the screen and in the description. And you can do that easily, no cost at all. And all back issues are free as well. Don't forget to also smash the like button, comment, share, and subscribe as well. You know what to do. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. And we'll see you guys again later with our daily show. And then obviously tomorrow again with another... what will be tomorrow, daily show, and then obviously preview show the next day. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you guys very, very soon. Take care.